At 5:11 local time, the starboard lookout goes still for half a second. Then he leans into the sound-powered phone. Multiple small craft bearing 086, closing fast on the bridge. Nobody asks him to say it again. The Combat Information Center already sees them. 3 surface contacts. Low profile, no AIS, no navigation lights. Moving dark through the pale gray just before sunrise, 18 nautical miles west of the Strait of Hormuz. The sea is calm. The tactical picture is not. On the radar scope, the contacts slide forward in a loose line, fast enough to matter and organized enough to feel deliberate. The officer of the deck steps closer to the forward windows as the U.S. Navy vessel continues at steady transit speed. No sharp turn, no raised voices, only the deep vibration of machinery, the quiet click of headsets, and the blue-green glow of displays reflecting across faces trained to stay unreadable. Below, inside CIC, a watchstander marks the tracks and reads them out in a flat voice. Surface contacts, Sierra 1, Sierra 2, Sierra 3. Speed 32 knots and increasing. No response to automated challenge. The captain is already on the bridge. He does not rush in. He is simply there, hands behind his back, eyes forward, listening to the rhythm of the ship. His presence alone changes the air. Sailors straighten. Reports become shorter, cleaner. Bridge to CIC, he says. Any flag, any emissions? A brief pause. Negative on AIS. Intermittent low-power handheld transmissions. No commercial signature. That is enough. The first radio call goes out over bridge to bridge. Unidentified small craft. This is a United States Navy vessel operating in international waters. You are approaching at unsafe speed. Alter course immediately. Nothing answers but static. The contacts keep closing. At that distance, they are still only shapes in the dawn. Black slivers cutting white wakes across flat water. But the geometry is wrong. Civilian boats do not approach a U.S. Navy vessel from multiple angles before sunrise, with no lights, no identification, and no reply to a radio call. In CIC, the tactical action officer sharpens the image through electro-optics. Grainy outlines form on the screen, narrow hulls, outboard spray, heat signatures grouped low and tight. Then one operator leans closer. Possible fourth heat source on lead craft, stern mounted. Nobody names what it might be. Not yet. The captain keeps his eyes on the forward windows. Set enhanced watch. Topside security teams to stations. Keep it controlled. No alarm, no panic. The order moves through the ship like current through wire. Hatches open, boots strike steel. Security sailors take their positions along the weather deck. On the bridge wing, binoculars rise almost together. At 5:14, the range drops below 11 nautical miles. The contacts split. One moves wider to port. The other two continue straight in, one slightly behind the other, as if using the lead boat's wake. It is subtle, but in this environment, subtle matters. One boat is shaping the approach, another is screening it. Inside CIC, the surface picture updates again. Sierra 1 and Sierra 2 maintaining intercept geometry. Sierra 3 offsetting port side. The officer of the deck keys the microphone again. Unidentified small craft. This is a United States Navy vessel. Alter course now. You are closing a sovereign immune vessel. Failure to comply will be considered dangerous intent. Still nothing. The first clear visual comes at 8 nautical miles. The electro-optical image steadies for 1 second, just long enough for suspicion to become shape. The lead craft is not carrying fishing gear. No nets, no crates, no lines, just men in dark clothing, compact silhouettes against the hull. One sits low near the bow. Another is turned inward, holding something long across his knees. Then the trailing boat rises on a swell and the camera catches it. A ladder, not rope, not cargo piping. A compact boarding ladder secured along the side of the hull. On the bridge, the air seems to lose a degree. Captain, the TAO says from below, voice tighter now. Recommend classify as probable forced boarding attempt. The captain answers at once. Do it. That changes everything. The report is passed, logged, and time-stamped. Probable forced boarding attempt. The Navy vessel does not turn away. It does not surge forward in panic. It does what it was built to do under pressure. It becomes more precise. The helicopter detachment is placed on standby. Topside teams remain locked on their sectors, disciplined and controlled. Cameras stay fixed. Every bearing, every speed change, every unanswered warning is being recorded. At 5:17, the range falls through 5 nautical miles. The portside contact, Sierra 3, surges ahead. Now the pattern becomes clear. One boat to distract, one to screen, one to close. The bridge-to-bridge circuit cracks again. This time, a reply finally comes. It is brief, accented, and far too calm. American vessel, maintain present course. That is all. No identification, no explanation. Just a command issued to a U.S. Navy ship in open water. The captain's expression does not change. "Negative," he says into the mic. "You are approaching a United States Navy vessel in an unsafe and dangerous manner. Turn away now." No answer. Hard silhouettes move across the brightening water, their wake spreading behind them like clean cuts across glass. On the lead craft, one figure rises fully into view. Helmet, vest, heavy gear strapped close to the chest. Not fishermen, not smugglers making a reckless mistake. Trained operators, and they are no longer testing distance. They are closing. By 5:19, one of the craft is close enough for the topside watch teams to make out faces. Another lifts sharply over a swell, exposing its bow for a single clear second. Mounted there, visible in the first light of morning, is a grappling assembly secured beside the boarding ladder. That is the moment the final doubt disappears. Inside CIC, a watchstander says what everyone already understands. They're setting up for the hull. On the bridge, the captain gives the next order in the same calm tone he has used all morning. "Hold steady, record everything, prepare to deny boarding." Because the men racing toward the ship are not shadowing it anymore. They are committed. At 5:19 local time, the distance between the U.S. Navy ship and the lead fast craft has dropped below 3 nautical miles. That is no longer just an approach. That is a countdown. On the bridge, the captain keeps his eyes forward as the tactical picture tightens around him. The lead boat sits off the starboard bow. A second runs slightly aft and wider, using spacing that looks practiced, not panicked. The third remains off to port, separated but still very much part of the problem. 3 boats, 3 angles, 1 purpose. Below, inside the Combat Information Center, the track lines narrow across the screens. Sierra 1 steady at 3.8 knots, Sierra 2 at 3.5, Sierra 3 holding port separation. The tactical action officer does not need to explain the rest. Everyone in the room can see it. They are shaping the ship. The first denial measures begin immediately. A long-range acoustic hailing system comes alive over the forward weather deck, sending an amplified warning across the morning water. "Iranian small craft. This is a United States Navy vessel. You are closing in an unsafe and aggressive manner. Turn away immediately." The warning repeats. Again and again. No reply. Only engines. Fast outboards hammer against the surface. Hulls slap over the light chop. White spray bursts from their bows as they keep coming. The officer of the deck gives the next command without hesitation. Topside security teams, hold tight, track only. Along the starboard side, sailors in helmets and body armor settle into position behind mounted systems and protective cover. Their barrels follow the boats, but no one engages. Not yet. Every movement is controlled, measured, deliberate. This is what escalation control looks like on a U.S. Navy ship. You show readiness. You do not waste it. At 5:20, the Bridgewing Watch gets a clearer view through magnified optics. Lead craft, 4 personnel visible, 1 standing aft, 1 forward with ladder assembly. Possible tactical equipment confirmed. That report lands with weight because it confirms what the camera had already suggested. These men are not there to circle or intimidate. They are there to reach the steel. The captain gives a single nod. Launch the helo. Back on the flight deck, the MH-60R detachment is already moving. The rotors begin to turn, slow at first, then faster, cutting the dawn air into hard mechanical pulses. Deck crew crouch low, wands in hand as the helicopter moves from standby to action within seconds. This is not for show. It is a tactical decision. The helicopter brings speed, optics, altitude, and pressure. More importantly, it places American eyes directly above the approaching craft. Inside CIC, the surface picture shifts again. Sierra 3 increasing speed. Port contact now, 40 knots. The portside boat is no longer simply holding wide. It is bait. Its role is to pull attention away while the starboard pair continue the real move. The captain understands it instantly. Do not chase the port craft. Maintain starboard priority. That is the right call. Because while one boat feints wide, the second starboard contact suddenly surges ahead of the leader, cutting tighter across the ship's projected path. It is a classic split-layer move. One craft screens. The other closes behind the distraction. On a civilian vessel, that kind of maneuver could create confusion. On this ship, it creates a cleaner picture. At 5:21, the MH-60R lifts off. Rotor wash blasts across the deck. Chains rattle. Sea spray tears away from the surface as the helicopter noses forward, drops low over the starboard side, and accelerates toward the incoming craft. From the bridge, its silhouette flashes against the brightening horizon, then banks hard, placing itself between the ship and the lead boat. Now the geometry changes. The operators in the fast craft are no longer moving only toward a Navy ship. They are doing it under a helicopter. The helo crew activates electro-optical and infrared systems immediately. The imagery comes through sharp and unmistakable. Dark uniforms, body armor, compact gear, one man gripping the side rail beside the boarding ladder. Another crouched over a bundle near the center line, shaped very much like additional climbing equipment. The helicopter pilot makes the first pass low and loud, not careless, not dramatic, but controlled. Close enough for the rotor wash to hit the boats with full force. Water breaks open around the Iranian craft. Their bows slam harder against the surface. One operator throws an arm across his face to block the spray. Another turns away for a second, caught in the noise, wind, and turbulence. Then the warning comes from above. Iranian small craft, this is a United States Navy helicopter. You are making an unsafe and aggressive approach toward a U.S. Navy vessel. Break off now. The message goes out in English, then it is repeated. This time, one of the boats finally answers. Only 3 words. Maintain your course. No vessel name, no unit identification, no explanation, just a command, as if they still believe the ship will hesitate long enough for them to complete the approach. But the U.S. Navy vessel does not hesitate. It begins denying the approach without escalating beyond control. A slight rudder adjustment, not enough to break transit. Not enough to look dramatic from a distance. Just enough to strengthen the starboard wake and change the closing angle. To anyone watching from far away, it would seem minor. To a fast craft trying to come alongside, it changes everything. The water beside the hull becomes rougher, heavier, harder to read. The clean approach lane starts to break apart into turbulence and rebound. At 5:22, the lead Iranian craft is under 1.5 nautical miles. Too close. On the helicopter feed, one operator rises into a half-kneeling position and raises his arm in a clear forward signal. Go. The screening boat cuts tighter. The ladder boat tucks into its wake. From the bridge wing, a lookout calls out what the optics have already confirmed. They're making their run. The helicopter drops lower. The warship holds steady. Topside teams remain locked on their sectors. No one acts too early. Not yet, but the boarding window is now opening, and every person on that bridge knows the next few seconds will decide whether those men reach the hull or get stopped in the water. At 5:22 local time, the boarding window opens, and the Iranian team takes it. The screening boat cuts sharply across the U.S. Navy vessel's starboard bow, throwing spray and wake in a final attempt to disrupt visual tracking. Behind it, the ladder boat vanishes for half a second inside the churn. Then it reappears. Closer, faster, exactly where it needed to be. On the bridge wing, the range caller keeps his voice level. Starboard contact inside 1 mile. That is close enough for details now. Not shadows, not outlines. Men, one at the bow, crouched low beside the grappling assembly. Another braced behind him with compact gear strapped tight across his chest. A third gripping the rail with both hands as the boat pounds over the swell. Their faces are hard to read in the bouncing light, but their posture says everything. They are not testing reactions anymore. They are committed to the hull. The captain watches for one more beat. Then he gives the order the ship has been moving towards since first contact. Deny boarding. Nothing more. No speech, no emotion. Just 2 words, delivered flat. On the starboard side, the security teams tighten their arcs. On the bridge, the officer of the deck orders a sharper rudder correction. Still controlled, still measured, but no longer subtle. The warship's wake builds into a moving wall of broken water. White turbulence boils along the starboard side, turning the final approach lane into a violent strip of churn and rebound. For a civilian boat, it would already be too much. For a trained boarding craft, it is still possible. And that is why the helicopter goes lower. The MH-60R drops until its rotor wash hammers the surface around the fast craft like a force field made of wind. The sea beneath it flattens for an instant, then bursts outward. Spray blasts across the Iranian boat's bow. One operator loses balance and drops to a knee. Another reaches for the ladder, trying to keep it secured as the boat bucks hard beneath him. Then the final warning comes from the helicopter. Iranian small craft, break away now. You are attempting to board a United States Navy vessel. Turn away immediately. No reply. Instead, the lead operator raises one arm and cuts it forward. Go. The boat surges. At 5:23, the distance collapses to under 400 yards. On the helicopter feed, there is no longer any room for interpretation. The forward hook assembly is clear. The compact telescoping ladder is secured amidships. At least 4 equipped men are on board, and one of them has moved to the bow, preparing to rise. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical action officer makes the call the bridge has been waiting for. Hostile boarding attempt confirmed. That changes the situation again. The captain answers immediately. Warning shots! Waterline ahead of the bow! The order moves topside in an instant. A mounted weapon opens in short, controlled bursts. Not at the boat, not at the men. Into the water just ahead of the craft's path. The rounds strike the surface like heavy steel, throwing white columns into the air. Spray erupts across the Iranian bow in hard sheets. For half a second, the boat checks. Then it keeps coming. That tells the crew everything. This is not a show of nerves. This is intent. The captain does not pause. Disable the engine. The next bursts are tighter, controlled, precise. Rounds strike near the stern quarter. On the third burst, the outboard gives way in a sharp flash of metal and spray. The engine housing breaks apart. Dark smoke punches upward. The fast craft yaws hard to starboard, suddenly stripped of clean thrust, then slams sideways into the warship's churned wake. And that is when the entire approach falls apart. The bow kicks up, the ladder tears loose on one side. One operator lunges for the rail and misses, crashing into another man as the boat rolls violently across the broken water. The grappling rig never leaves the deck. The craft is still moving, but not with control. Not toward the hull, only across the wake. Behind them, the screening boat makes a desperate attempt to close the gap itself. The helicopter catches it instantly. The MH-60R pivots, drops lower, and drives rotor wash over the second boat with enough force to shove its bow offline. At the same moment, topside teams shift aim and track. No further rounds, just unmistakable overwatch from above and from the ship's flank. The message is clear in every direction. One more push, and the situation gets worse. For a few seconds, the second craft keeps pressing. Then the warship's wake catches it too. The hull slams. The boat bucks upward, nose high, losing its clean angle. One man grabs the side rail with both hands. Another twists back toward the disabled lead craft, now trailing smoke and drifting broadside in the churn. The formation is gone. The timing is gone. What had been a coordinated boarding attempt only seconds earlier is now a broken approach under a helicopter, under watch, beside a moving wall of steel and water that never stopped advancing. At 5:24, the disabled lead craft is dead in the water. The second boat turns away first, not in a clean tactical arc, but in a sharp, uneven break that throws spray wide across the morning light. The portside distraction boat, still beyond the immediate denial zone, begins widening its own path. Whatever command structure brought them in is unraveling in real time. But nobody on the bridge relaxes, because near Hormuz, the first move is rarely the whole story. Inside CIC, another operator leans closer to his scope. New emissions bearing north-northeast, intermittent radar sweep. No one cheers. No one speaks unless they need to. The captain looks forward as the helicopter circles above the disabled fast craft, and the two surviving boats pull away. The first team is done, he says quietly. Find out who they were working for. Because the men who tried to reach the ship have failed. But the water around Hormuz is still talking. And something beyond those boats has just started to answer. At 5:24 local time, the first boarding attempt is over. The lead Iranian fast craft drifts powerless in the water. Stern low, engine destroyed, a dark trail of smoke stretching across the dawn. The second boat is breaking away hard to starboard. The third, the portside distraction craft, is already widening the gap. But on the U.S. Navy ship, nobody mistakes withdrawal for safety. Inside the Combat Information Center, the surface picture remains alive. 3 fast craft, 1 disabled, 2 separated. Helicopter overhead, security teams topside, weapons trained, every camera still recording. For many ships, that would be enough to call the immediate danger contained. Not here. Because then the electronic warfare operator speaks up. New sweep bearing 027, intermittent radar, possible shore-based or larger surface contact. The bridge becomes even quieter than before. That detail changes the entire incident. This is no longer only a failed boarding attempt. It may be part of something wider. The captain turns slightly toward the tactical repeater. Classify. Below him, the CIC team moves quickly. Frequency band, pulse pattern, repetition rate, sweep duration. They are not guessing. They are separating random noise from deliberate design. A warship does not survive in places like Hormuz by reacting to the loudest thing in front of it. It survives by finding the pattern behind it. Then another voice comes in from the helicopter. Bridge, Helo 1, visual on disabled craft. 4 personnel aboard, no one entering the water. Second and third craft are regrouping to the north. Stand by. Possible unmanned aerial contact. High right. No light. Single heat source. That lands heavily. Small boats below. An unknown radar sweep beyond them. Now something in the air. The captain does not look surprised. He looks confirmed. The boarding team was never the whole plan. It was the first layer. At 5:25, the ship's electronic warfare suite goes fully active. Not loud, not dramatic, precise. Antennas shift, receivers tighten, signal libraries begin comparing the new sweep against known profiles. Coastal surveillance, surface search, targeting support, maritime tracking systems. The answer matters, and it matters quickly. The officer of the deck gives the next order. Come right 5 degrees. Increase lateral separation from the disabled craft. A small move, a major effect. The U.S. Navy vessel is no longer simply denying a close approach. It is moving sideways out of a possible engagement box. No circling back. No lingering near the crippled craft. No giving distant observers a clean, fixed picture. The ship keeps moving, keeps shaping the geometry, keeps refusing to be pinned. That is the difference between reacting tactically and thinking operationally. On the bridge wing, a lookout studies the horizon through stabilized optics. No large hull visual, sea state clear, negative coastal silhouette. That means the radar source could be farther out, hidden, or above the surface. The MH-60R banks north and climbs, trading low pressure for altitude and sensor reach. The crew shifts from close overwatch to wide area scan. Infrared sweeps the waterline. The camera moves past the 2 retreating fast craft and out toward the pale edge of dawn. Then the sensor operator catches it. Possible drone bearing 031, low altitude, shadowing from distance. Not diving, not closing, just watching. And that makes it more concerning, because watching suggests coordination. Inside CIC, the tactical picture begins to connect. The port side distraction craft, the starboard ladder craft, the screening boat, the delayed radar sweep, the possible drone feed overhead. It fits too cleanly to be improvised. Somebody built this approach in layers. Maybe not to complete the boarding outright, maybe to create pressure, to force a response, to expose procedures, to hold the warship in one narrow moment long enough for something else to enter the picture. But that window is already closing. The U.S. Navy vessel is moving out of it. At 5:26, the captain gives an order that says everything about who still controls the encounter. Do not pursue the retreating craft. That is discipline. It would be easy to chase. Easy to send the helicopter after the 2 boats now pulling away. Easy to let the intensity of the failed boarding attempt drag the ship into a wider, messier situation. Instead, the crew does what professionals do. They widen the lens. The electronic warfare officer finally gets enough clarity for an initial assessment. Radar sweep consistent with maritime surface search, not targeting lock, repeating at irregular intervals, likely cueing or tracking support. Support. That one word explains the shape of the entire event. The boarding team was there to get close. Something else was there to watch what happened when they did. Then the helicopter reports again. Helo 1 to bridge, drone contact turning away. Repeat, contact is turning away. No closer approach. That means 2 things. First, the observers may have gotten what they came for. Second, they know the warship sees them. At 5:27, the 2 remaining fast craft begin opening range for real. No more shaping, no more screening, no more pretending they still control the moment. Their wakes lengthen, their formation loosens. The drone fades north. The radar sweep becomes weaker, less frequent, more cautious. And on the U.S. Navy ship, the pressure finally begins to reverse. The bridge is still tense. Security teams remain in position. The helicopter is still overhead. But the center of gravity has shifted. 5 minutes ago, the Iranian team was trying to dictate the approach. Now they are the ones reacting. To a ship that read the first move, blocked the second, and refused to remain inside the larger trap being built around it. The captain watches the horizon for another moment, then speaks without raising his voice. They wanted us fixed on the boats. Nobody answers. Nobody has to, because now the shape of the whole event is clear. The boarding attempt was never only about hooks, ladders, and men trying to reach the hull. It was about holding an American Navy vessel in one dangerous position long enough for the next layer to matter. But that next layer arrived too late, or it expected too much. At 5:28, the U.S. Navy ship is clear of the most dangerous water near the disabled craft. The fast boats are pulling north. The suspected drone is gone. The radar sweep is fading. Not because the threat was never real, because the ship moved faster than the plan behind it. And in a place like Hormuz, that is how you survive the second danger. Not by focusing only on the first clash, but by seeing what is waiting behind it before it closes. At 5:28 local time, the water around the U.S. Navy ship begins to open again. Not because the situation was minor, but because the response was larger, sharper, and more disciplined than the men who came in on those boats expected. To the north, the 2 remaining Iranian fast craft are now running for distance. Their wakes stretch long and uneven in the early light. Behind them, the disabled lead boat drifts in the swell, stern low, engine ruined, a dark smear trailing across the water. The failed boarding ladder hangs crooked over the side like a piece of abandoned intent. Above it all, the MH-60R circles wide and steady. Camera locked, every second recorded. On the bridge, nobody celebrates. The captain keeps the ship on course. Same bearing, same discipline. No dramatic turn, no chase. Just a U.S. Navy vessel continuing through international waters after stopping a forced boarding attempt less than 10 minutes after first clear visual confirmation. That is the part most people never understand about moments like this. Victory does not always sound loud. Sometimes it looks like a ship that never stopped moving. Inside the Combat Information Center, the real aftermath has already begun. The threat board is still active, but now the data matters more than the adrenaline. Operators rewind electro-optical footage frame by frame, boarding ladder, grappling hardware, tactical gear outlines, helmet types, formation spacing, which boat screened, which boat carried the boarding team, which one moved first when the defensive response began. The answers are being captured in real time, not guessed at later. The electronic warfare team is doing the same with the signals, the intermittent radar sweep from the north, the handheld transmissions from the boats, the brief command telling the American ship to maintain course. Then the weakening pattern as the drone turned away and the support layer backed off. Every detail is time-stamped, logged, stored. That is the hidden turn inside the failed operation. The Iranian team came in believing closeness gave them control. But closeness works both ways. The closer they got, the more they revealed. At 5:30, the helicopter reports no renewed approach from the retreating craft. No additional boats breaking from the horizon, no new launch trails, no secondary surface contacts moving to close the gap. The drone contact is gone. The supporting radar sweep has nearly disappeared into the wider noise of the Gulf. The pressure is over, but the picture remains. And that picture is not good for the people who built the operation. Because what they wanted was a moment, an image. A U.S. Navy ship caught in confusion near Hormuz. Iranian operators close enough to reach the hull. American sailors forced into a tense response. Maybe a propaganda clip. Maybe a political message. Maybe a gray zone embarrassment that could spread before anyone explained what really happened. Instead, the only complete record belongs to the ship they tried to corner, and that matters. Back on the flight deck, the MH-60R returns at 5:34. Rotor wash rolls across the deck as the helicopter settles down and chains go back on. The crew climbs out quickly, not with the loose relief of people returning from routine surveillance, but with the focused rhythm of a team that knows it was just above the edge of something much larger. Their sensor package still holds the footage. Their microphones still hold the warning calls. Their systems still hold the image of equipped men trying to bring a boarding ladder against the side of an American Navy vessel and failing under pressure. Below them, topside security teams remain in position for several more minutes. Their aim stays trained until the range fully opens. No one assumes the Gulf is finished speaking just because the water has gone quiet. At 5:36, the captain finally gives the order. Stand down one level. Maintain full surface watch. Not stand down completely. Not here. Near Hormuz, calm water and safety are not the same thing. The report traffic begins almost immediately. Flash precedents, initial contact timeline, threat classification, denial measures, warning bursts, engine disablement, suspected support layer, possible drone overwatch. Every line is clean, factual, and difficult to challenge. Even harder to twist. Hours later, far away from the heat, spray, and pressure of that dawn encounter, intelligence analysts will replay every second. They will study the approach geometry of the boarding team, the spacing between the boats, the way the distraction craft tried to pull American attention wide, the exact second the ladder boat committed, the short radio transmission ordering the U.S. Navy vessel to maintain course, the fading radar support from the north, the drone that turned away the moment the wider plan began to collapse. And from all of it, they will build something more valuable than a dramatic clip. A pattern. How these teams move when they still believe surprise belongs to them. How they coordinate when they think an American warship has been fixed in place. How quickly the plan comes apart when that warship refuses to freeze. By sunrise, the U.S. Navy vessel is farther east, still on mission. Hull dry, deck intact, boarding denied. The Iranian boats are gone. The disabled craft is left behind for others to recover, explain, and study. The sea is bright now, almost indifferent, as if nothing serious had just unfolded across it. But something did happen. Iranian operators came close enough to believe they had a chance. Close enough to show their equipment. Close enough to expose their method. Close enough to reveal the support layer behind them. And that is the final irony of the encounter. They came to take control of the moment. Instead, they gave the U.S. Navy a complete record of how they operate when they think the advantage is finally theirs. So no, the story did not end with Commandos standing on the deck. It ended with the warship still moving, the trap broken, the men who tried to spring it pulling away under camera lock near Hormuz. That is more than survival. That is control without spectacle. And for everyone watching from shore, from the drone feed, or from the radar screen that started sweeping too late, the message was impossible to miss. The U.S. Navy vessel did not blink. It denied the boarding, read the trap behind it, and kept going.